The UFC 312's press conference happened yesterday, and it was pretty good. It was what you would expect from a Sean Strickland press conference, let's just say. I would say that Dricus did win the trash talk, but there was very little of it, so it's hard to say. There was a lot of Mandarin, which was annoying. Tatiana Suarez is not very smart. Sean Strickland is also not very smart, but he's super funny. So we're going to get into it. So it starts off with Dricus getting booed for thinking that he won by the whole crowd, which sucks. And then Sean Strickland telling the crowd to shut up, and then tells the crowd to calm down, let him answer, and then calls him a Dutchman, which he does 50,000 times throughout this press conference. Dutchman is Dricus's name to Sean Strickland throughout this entire thing. Sean Strickland starts doing his usual thing. He starts screaming that I would die for you guys. I would die for you guys. And starts saying that I'm going to teep and jab. He said that this time. He's been self-aware this time and says that he's usually teeps and jabs, but now he wants to die because the crowd's awesome. The usual Sean Strickland thing. And then Sean gets into his big trash talking moment where he says that Dricus looks like a retard on a short bus when he fights, which is true, but it's descriptive. And then Dricus hits him with the comeback of the century, which I think solidifies him the win. He says, "You look like the driver of the short bus," because Sean Strickland looks crazy right now with his mustache and his tank top. And then he said, "No, you should have gotten fired, or you're probably fired because you shouldn't be around kids with that look." Which is the big burn. It gets a bunch of ooze from the crowd. Everybody's hyped about that. That's the big moment. That's pretty much all the trash talk between the two, to be honest, at all. So that's about it for the trash talk, which is kind of lame, but I get it. They didn't want to. It got pretty heated last time. They don't want to go to that point this time. Sean Strickland threatened to shoot Dricus, which I thought was a huge bitch move, to be honest. If you can't take the heat, don't dish it. You're the master of dishing bullshit. Sean Strickland is. What you should be able to take it. I think that's a super big baby moment, but he's a big baby kind of, so it doesn't. It's not that big of a deal. And then after that, Sean Strickland makes like a stupid, corny joke about how he was wearing a lot of jewelry, so he's a woman or something, and then it was just a weird exchange. And then we get to Zhang Weili and Tatiana Suarez's kind of moments. They don't trash talk at all. They only talk good about each other. And Zhang Weili tries to speak in English, and it's actually not that bad. It's way better than it used to be in the past, but it is hard to get through a little bit. Just I respect it, but it's just hard to get through. And Suarez isn't much better when she's talking in English. I'm not gonna lie. Her and Zhang's English to me is they're like equal on bearable to listen to. I'm not gonna lie. Suarez says that they're the real main event, and then the crowd boos her, which is awesome. And then Strickland makes it weird and says that he's like, the man came to fix this card, and then tries to hype up Suarez because they're teammates or whatever, but fails at it the whole time. He belittles her the whole time while trying to make her look good. It goes pretty crazy later in the press conference too, the shit that he says about her, but we'll get to that. They go over the headbutt. Was the headbutt was the cut on his eyeball a headbutt or a right hand? Dricus folds and says it's a headbutt. And then they talk about the judging, and Strickland says that they were blind. And Dricus says they weren't blind. And that's pretty much it for that. And then Sean Strickland says that he's not sure about Suarez's cooking ability, like how well she can cook, but says that she's good at wrestling. And Sean Strickland is on record in his media day saying that she's retarded. So that's awesome, trying to hype up your teammate. He's just openly saying that she's retarded and that she's just going to like bulldoze through Zhang Weili because she's mental, which is a way to hype up your teammate, I guess. It's okay. I'd say it works, but it is really funny. And then Zhang says that her Zhang says Suarez's wrestling is so good. And then Li Jingliang, or not Li Jing, what am I saying? Oh no, it is Li Jingliang, yeah. Leech, he decides to ask some questions in Mandarin after screaming at the top of his lungs at the beginning, jump scaring everybody, and then talks a bunch of says a bunch of questions in Mandarin to answer him. It's about, oh, how are you gonna win? That kind of thing. It's stupid. It's lame. And then Zhang, he asks questions about the wrestling of Suarez or something. Zhang says that her knees are ready. But the first time I listened to it, I was like, what the fuck are you even saying? But she says that her knees are ready, so a flying knee knockout is what I'm going with in this fight now because of Zhang. And then they yap in Mandarin a lot more after that. They say like how are you a role model for the children or for the young women or whatever, and then Suarez goes into it, and then the whole time that they're going into how they're a role model, Strickland is laughing up there the entire time, can't hide it, can't pretend for like a second. He is a monster, and it's so funny. And then a fucking stupid reporter, this question is so dumb. He asks the main event to say nice things to each other. He asked Dricus and Strickland to say one nice thing about the other person, which is the stupidest fucking question of all time. That is so stupid. We don't want that. We want the opposite of that. I hate that question. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to be nice to each other? That's stupid. They've pretty much been being nice to each other this whole time. I hate that. And then he pretty much says the exact same thing, that he's a retard. And then Dricus says that he's tough. It's stupid and I hate it. And then he shits on Australia and politics, but then says he would like live there if the politics were better, if he had guns, and calls Australia white trash. And then a reporter asked Dana how he likes Sean Strickland's mustache, which who gives a fuck about that also. And Dana just brushes it off and moves on and doesn't say shit. Which is the only fucking answer he could really give. And then they talk about the headline, the Australian like sports magazine's headline or whatever that says they want Sean Strickland to get knocked out, and Strickland shits on it hard. And then he starts shitting on Chimaev in like a way that's his way of promoting the Chimaev fight is stupid to me. He's just talking about how he like schmoozed up to the dictator of Chechnya, but it's like you would do the same shit. Is kind of how I see that. You would do the same thing if a dictator ruled your country. Like Trump isn't a dictator, not yet. We might get to that point. You never know, but he's not a dictator. You're allowed to say shit about anybody in your country. In Australia, you are too. You can't say shit about the dictator in Chechnya. It's stupid reason to trash talk, but. Then Sean Strickland brings up how women should make sandwiches again, and how men should never make a sandwich. Not in my country, not on my watch, which is crazy. And it's really funny. And then he gets appreciative of the fans, and I think he almost tears up. He like almost starts crying. He's a weirdly emotional, he's a weird guy. He's very funny, but he's a weird dude to listen to. Because I could feel like he would start crying. I feel like he's frantic, which we already knew. I bet he's bipolar as fuck. Like, I bet you'd start crying and then start laughing hysterically, and then get really pissed and start yelling. I don't think I could ever be, like, comfortable in the same room as him. Especially if it's like an event, like a party or something. I feel like I'd be on edge the whole time in that room with him, bro. Hanging out with him would be a fucking nightmare, I think. He would be really funny, though. Which I've said a lot this video. And then to close it off, Sean says that he's immune to staph infection because there's a huge fucking staph infection on his arm, which is probably going to play a big part in this fight, and it's making me like my Dricus pick a little more. But he says he's immune to staph, and he's immune to disease, and he doesn't give a fuck, and he's going to come hard and strong, and he's going to become the hardest and the strongest of all time. He says that like 3 times. He's going to come hard. He says that a lot to close it out, which you can take that how you want, I would say. But he has staph infection, so that's going to play a big part. But then that's pretty much it. So the whole press conference was was just Sean Strickland yelling or Mandarin. Nothing. So it was pretty good overall, I would say. It wasn't the best, but it's definitely more entertaining than a lot of the press conference recently. I need a Marab, Sean Strickland press conference. Those two up there. That would be awesome. And we can make it an hour long. And then Marab and Sean Strickland can just take turns going on 10-minute monologues. I think that would be great. So yeah, the press conference wasn't anything special, but it was pretty good. And yeah, I'll see you soon.